Hi there, Stampers. This is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I go live right here on YouTube and Facebook every Monday and Thursday at 2:30 Mountain Time. Today, I'm not technically live. I'm actually in New Mexico, house sitting for a friend and visiting my daughter, but I didn't want you guys to miss out just because I was out of town. So I'm pre-recording these, and my hope is that I can show up online in the comments and still interact with you guys while we craft.
We will be making a 2, 4, 6, 8 fun fold card.
And this is featuring the Winterly Treetops bundle and some fantastic designer series paper that goes with it. And I can't wait to show you how it's done. So here is our card. As I said, these products are going to be available in the upcoming mini catalog that will go live September 3rd. These have been mailed, so if you have placed an order with me in the last year, you should be getting this in the mail anytime now if you don't have it already. This is one of the fun folds that's available in my fun fold tutorial book. I do have 2 of these, and the index for what's in each one contains 50 patterns, and the index is available online in my store so you can see which ones you're getting. So this is the bundle we're using. It's called Winterly Treetops, and then it has these great dies that go with it. I especially like this one here that gives kind of a window frame. We did this probably a week ago and created this one here. And then these were die cut straight out of the designer series paper using these coordinating dies. Adding to the coordinating dies, today I'm also using the perennial postage and my absolute favorite stylish shapes dies. If you follow me much, you know that I highly, highly recommend that you get these basic shape dies because I use them all the time. They are so useful in any number of cards, regardless of what you're making. I chose to make my sentiment up here kind of a little bit on the smaller side because I didn't want to interrupt the designer series paper pattern on the bottom. I just thought this was so pretty. I didn't want to use a large layer that would cover that up. But if you're using a different paper or a different design, you may want to do the larger shape here to include room to sign your name. I think what I might do is put a little section on the back where I can sign it so that they still get to enjoy all that beautiful paper. So here are all my pieces. This is called a 2, 4, 6, 8 card because I'm using a piece of designer series paper that is 5 1/4 by 12, scored at, you guessed it, 2, 4, 6, and 8. Okay, we're going to make this one a valley fold, the next a mountain, a valley, and then a mountain. Okay, and that's going to stack them one on top of each other. Okay, then what I chose to do is I chose to glue the layers together. So I made sure I was good and even. And then I adhered these 2 together. Okay, and then I'm making sure these 2 are flush at the top. Varnish those. And then I'm once again going to put some adhesive in here. And you remember my saying this was 5 1/4 inches tall. So overall, this ends up being 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I want this to be an A2 size card. So I'm taking a piece of gray granite. That's one of the colors out of our paper. And I cut that to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which is an A2 sized card. And I'm going to just layer this right over the top. So now it's going to fit in our medium envelopes. and be the standard size we're used to working with. Okay, as I said, I had already die cut the perennial postage squares, or rectangles actually, and I stamped the sentiment. I actually stamped the sentiment and then die cut it. It was especially useful with the thinking of you so that I could get it nice and straight. Sometimes I stamp before, sometimes I stamp after. I'll admit I'm not very consistent. Do whatever works better for you. I know some people feel very strongly one way or the other. I don't. I'm just creating. I'll just, whatever strikes my fancy that day. So as I said, I'm putting this back here, trying not to cover up any of my little birdies. And I'm just centering it and putting it back there. Okay, my banners, I wanted to go across the bottom. I want it to be centered, but I only want it adhered on this side. So I'm only going to put adhesive on this side. Okay, and then I'm going to put my thinking of you right over the top. See, this is why that one's crooked. I always stamp before adhering because paper has two sides for a reason. Sometimes you might need to try again, especially since these are a set of red rubber stamps, and so you can't see all the way through them, so usually your placement isn't as easy. Okay, then I want these two, again, to be centered, but then one high and one low. So I'm going to come down, I don't know, maybe 1/4 of an inch from the top, and I'm only going to do half of it. So I'm going to put adhesive on half. I'm going to center it in my card and adhere it. Now, whatever my distance is up here, that's what I want my distance to be down here at the bottom. I want to try to keep those two even. But once again, I'm only putting adhesive on half of the circle so that I don't glue my card shut. And we're going to put that down here. Okay. Eeks. Wasn't quite centered. Don't tell anybody. There, that looks better. Okay. Then I wanted to stamp the birds on this, but the bird actually hangs over a little bit. If you'll notice when I pull him out. Oh, I guess he's already out. There we go. His tail would hang over a little bit, and I wanted to include his tail. So what I decided to do was color him. And I also could have chose to use the die cut ones out of our designer series paper. I know I'd showed you that before, and that you could use the dies and cut it directly out of the paper. And then you could use that one instead if you chose to. Okay, so we can stamp this directly on the paper and he'll face that way. The other thing we could do is we can reverse him and make him go the other direction. And we do that by inking him up. And then I'm going to stamp onto my glass mat. Then I'm going to lay my scrap paper over the top of that and rub. And that's going to pick up the ink and have him face the other direction. Oops. It's a little bit lighter but I think you get the idea. And I kind of goofed. I have a halo. I apologize. My pad is extra inky. I can avoid that, number one, by stamping straight down and straight up. But the other thing I can do is rub it with the back of a spoon, and that will push my ink down into the pad, making me less likely to get too much ink on my stamp. Okay, so then what I want to do is I want to color him. I'm going to do that with Stampin' Blends. So I'm going to bring in Crumb Cake and for one, and I'm going to do Boho Blue for the other. I'm going to make his berries red. Let's see his, let's just color with these and I'll put these away. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to start out in the darker areas with my darker blend. So this is dark Crumb Cake. And I'm kind of making flicking motions as I'm coming off into the bird. Because as you notice, when you flick, it starts out kind of dark and goes into lighter, which is kind of what I want to do with this. Is I want a little bit of dark on the edge, fading into lighter. And then I'm going to come in with my light and I'm going to blend. You can do that by making small little circles as you go over the dark with your light. And if the colors are not blending, then just keep laying down ink. The key is to try to work quickly because you don't want the ink to dry, because you want it to stay a little bit on the wet side so that when you introduce the darker or the lighter color, they're going to blend. Because what they do is kind of bleed together. Because they do that, we're using a water-based ink with a alcohol-based marker, because like mediums are going to blend together. And so this way my alcohol will blend and my water-based ink will not. But it allows me to keep laying down some ink and getting a good blend going on here. And I'm not blurring my outline. I think I'm going to bring in a little bit of light pumpkin pie for his beak. You might also choose Daffodil Delight or something similar. Trying to go very lightly because it's pretty skinny. Okay, for the little berries, I made the inside little part right here dark. And then I made the rest of the berry light. And then let's see. Use some pecan pie for the little branch he's sitting on. Okay, now we can move up to our upper bird. And his outline is a little bit on the light side and not super clear because I may have moved the paper a little when I was picking up my image. I did use my glass mat. You can also use the silicone mat, the little square that we sell. Either one works. You just want some kind of an even surface that you can pick up the ink. See, pie. I know I'm kind of doing this out of order. Okay, again, I'm going with the dark first, following the dark lines that the artist gave us when they drew the images. Trying to give it a light hand with little flicking motions. I'm also moving the paper because I want my hand to be in a very comfortable position for me. You're going to be more accurate in your coloring if you give a little bit of a spin to the paper to where your hand is comfortable. As I said, if you're not getting a good blending, then just keep laying down some more color, because the wetter it is, the better it's going to blend. You can also choose to maybe come back in with a little bit of colored pencil. I can be a little more fine with my colored pencil. Maybe even the Stampin' Right markers. I'm going to color some of that in because they are fairly small. And I don't know, I think the tip on the markers is just a little big for that. You can also use maybe a white or a gray. Little bit of, can't find my colored pencil, but a little bit of colored pencil over the top of that will give it just a little more detail. Okay, so now we're ready to fussy cut them out. fussy cut. We're going to die cut them out. You can fussy cut if you'd like to, but there is a coordinating die. So, oh, I'm going to fussy cut one and die cut the other. That's what we're doing. I got my words mumbled. Go figure, huh? Oh, I saw it shift. I know it did. Yep. Okay, if your dies shift on you and you're worried that they're going to not cut properly, you might want to anchor them down with a little bit of washi tape or a Post-it note. Okay, again, I'm holding my scissors in a comfortable position, and then I'm turning the paper because I want my hand to remain in a comfortable position, because that's how I'm going to get the most accurate. I'm also cutting off excess that might be in my way. That's the one drawback to giving them the flip and doing the mirror image, is that the die doesn't necessarily work. There's a little trick to getting it to die cut. When you do it, there's just more involved. You need the stamp positioner and all that. I have another video that describes how to do that. I just chose to do this kind of on the fly, which is why I'm not totally organized. If you'll notice my example, they went the same way. And I was thinking, oh, they should be a little different. So it is easier if you keep them the same direction. I just wanted to show you guys a little trick if you wanted to flip him. They call it a mirror image because he's the same thing, just going the other way as if it was a mirror. So there are our two birds. Now, when I placed them on the circle, I thought the white circle was a little too boring for me. So what I decided to do was bring in my Stampin' Write markers. And these are sold by Color Family. And I'm using my Neutrals collection. So I can use a Misty Moonlight. And I'm going to take my circles with the brush tip end. Now these markers have two tips. If you haven't seen our new ones yet, they now have kind of a felt tip point to them. Still do a very fine writing. And then they have the brush tip end at the other side. And I'm going to take the brush tip end. Oh, and you'll notice the little lines. This is the skinny end. This is the fat end. That refers to the brushes. But I'm going to put it inside my cap and I'm flicking. And as I do that, the ink kind of splatters. and gives me this kind of neat backdrop, which is just a little subtle something to have in the background. You could also choose to maybe blend it with some blending brushes and a little bit of ink. But I just thought this would be a neat technique to show you. Okay, and then when I adhere them to my card, I kind of placed this second bird to where we could see his face. I thought it was just kind of cute to be able to see him sticking out from behind. Does he look cute placed right there? So I'm going to give him just a little bit of adhesive. And again, I'm kind of watching, so his head's going to pop out. Yep, he looks good there. And then we'll use this one. Okay, so that's how it looks with the birds facing opposite directions. And then this is what they look like facing the same direction. So there you go. There is our 2, 4, 6, 8 card. I hope you enjoyed today's card and that you choose to come back and see me again for another Facebook and YouTube Live, again, Mondays and Thursdays at 2:30 Mountain Time. And don't forget, in the meantime, you can shop my store, queenbeecreations.net. Thank you so much.